Hello, Blocklings! It's me, Jeremy Cobb, pronouns he, him, and I am joined today by...
none other than DM Neil, a.k.a. Joe Maniac, and we are back in the DM-Nastics, the gym for the Dungeon Masters to work out their minds. And today, I feel like we're going to really work out our minds. I feel like this is one of the few places we can go that works out the mind of everyone at the table. Because we're going to be talking about, well, the title of it is NPCing some things. Because we are going to pull and come up with some NPCs and the ideas that they would have and the experiences that they would want to share after experiencing the Feywild. So today we will be sharing another exercise that is on the Discord, and I shall share a couple of responses. And then, as we are wont to do, Jeremy, we will get to make some NPCs on our own. And I'm very excited. I'm very excited for that. But before we jump into that, several things. One, did you know that Bob Ross? Nope, it doesn't work that way because he has passed. Did you know that Magic the Gathering used Bob Ross paintings as a special set of land cards?
Whoa. Was this like a partnership that they did with Bob Ross?
Yeah,
or
it's their
estate?
Yeah, it's their Secret Lair series where they do kind of these one-off themed things. Like there was one for the D&D cartoons. So it was like Saturday Morning Adventure was like the theme. There's one where it was all these metal bands and kind of their cover art into cards. And then one was basically like Happy Little Land, I believe it was called. And they took Bob Ross paintings and made them land cards. So that's what I put as the image on the exercise was the forest land card from that Bob Ross series.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
There you go, listener. And I don't want to go look out. I assume it's an unreasonable price now because it's like a drop and then they don't put more of them out. So those may be very expensive or very attainable for whoever is listening.
You could probably find an image of one online if all you want to see, if all you really want to see is just what do they look like.
Yes, that is easy enough. But if you want to hold them in your hands and have them in your deck, feel free. But we are going to be, like I said, tying back to World Building the Feywilds, which was episode 229. But that led me to the idea of not just showing, but telling the Feywild, because time doesn't work the same. Where you go in and go out doesn't work the same. The creatures that are there don't work the same. It could be very standard thing that you are doing and you do it wrong. You accept a gift and you are beholden to that creature forever. You don't have your soul anymore because you walked down the path the wrong way. These are the fun things that the Feywild has available to you. So some NPCs though, and the questions we put out were, what discernible signs do they display from their experience? What story do they share with the PCs? And with that, what warning do they give the PCs? And my favorite one, how reliable are they as a narrator? Because that's also a thing to think of, because are they beholden to someone at that point trying to wrap the PCs in this? So we have a few really well done ones on the Discord. And I'll have a link directly to the Discord because Jeremy and I have figured out that a direct link to the exercise, not a great choice. Because this is actually, what I realize, it's their forums. So it's like a sub thread. It's a whole thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I realize now that direct linking, probably not my best move.
At least you tried. I respect the effort, I respect the hustle.
So the one I want to highlight is from DM Emerald, which I think we're already on a good track. We're already talking green. We're in the Feywild. And this one is Kenneth Finway. The Unsect is like their kind of moniker.
Unsect?
Yes.
S-E-C-T?
Yes.
Okay. Like an unsect instead of an insect.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So Kenneth is fairly plain clothing, but wields a bug-stained bat and a large brim hat with mesh that can be pulled over and cover their face. They also carry a small box that they keep pulling bugs out of eating. And Kenneth Finway, which would be Fenway Park, as a longtime Red Sox fan, I could tell because DM Emerald would prefer that we go to the park when we talk as this character. And so basically talking about their experience in dealing with the bugs, but always being prepared to deal with them further. Basically, I'm no exterminator, but I ain't about to back down from a challenge either. So Kenneth here has somewhat of a bug-based vendetta against the Feywild, which can, I assume, get into some really ridiculous scenarios.
Yeah. So I guess my question is Fenway specifically a Feywild creature themselves? Or are they somebody who has simply been influenced by the powers of the Feywild?
It is someone who has been there and experienced it. And because one of the warnings
has now forever changed.
Yes. And one of the warnings they give is don't tread through the flower fields that contain the repeating lilies, tiger lilies, peonies, baby's breath, lilies again, celery stalks, and bleeding hearts. In that order. If it's a different order, it's probably fine. But that order.
Right. That is delightfully Fey, and I feel like it's in the way that like it's needlessly complicated. I like to think of the Feywild as being, even though people will talk about it as being like extremely random, I like the idea that it's random in the same sense that like physics can sometimes, like if you get into like quantum physics, stuff becomes random in that it's like you're talking about like there's laws and all this stuff you have to like dig deep into, but it's all like very systematized. So I like the idea of like, yes, this very specific order will cause these completely bizarre and random things to happen.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like a combination of the chaotic and the scientific.
Yeah, in this one instance. Any additional factors, I can't guarantee anything.
Exactly.
I guess my follow-up question then to you would be, do you feel like this is someone that the party should meet there or not in the Feywild?
No, this is, if they've been touched by the Feywild and they're now telling you don't go into those fields, I would say they should meet the party outside of the Feywild. This should be like an early encounter where we haven't maybe met very many Fey people or Fey associated things yet, but this is somebody who's actually had a run-in and now has like this weird relationship with insects that seems to, or just bugs in general, that seems to like transcend the normal bounds of reality, where this dude can just summon them. It has like not an exterminator, but is absolutely willing to throw down. Like that seems like this person may have had a completely different life beforehand. And I think we should meet them and have an understanding now of what the Feywild can do.
I'd like it if they were in like one of the air quote thin spaces. So then they're near an entrance to the Feywild, and they stay there because then they can eventually fight more bugs. Like they know it. Like they have the ones that are supposed to be here and the ones that are not supposed to be here. And woe to you who is not supposed to be here.
Yes. Woe betide all invasive insects.
Because Kenneth, the Unsect, will arrive.
Yeah, we need Kenneth the Unsect in America, frankly. Because we have a lot of invasive insect species in the U.S.
Oh, then we got like the double cicada thing going on soon.
Are those invasive?
They're terrible when they show up. They're not invasive, though.
It's true. I was thinking of like killer bees and stuff like that.
Oh, the murder hornets. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah. Those are not the same things, but yes. Yes. Both are not good to have in America anyway.
Yeah. No.
I mean, Africanized honeybees aren't even, like, those are a hybrid species. So those technically aren't even naturally occurring. We made those, and as it turns out, it was a bad idea.
Yeah, we really should leave it alone, just for our own personal safety in most regards, because some of the most dangerous game in North America are pigs that have gotten out and cows that have gotten out because they're real big, because that's kind of how we make them. And then they kind of revert back to, their more natural instincts. And now you just have a super buff cow who's really down to kill you. Yeah.
It was sad. I felt bad for that dude who got made fun of those years ago, who he was like 40 to 50 feral hogs will come down and destroy my property. Like he was talking about, and people like made fun of him. But I feel like if those people actually understood how big of a problem feral hogs were in the United States, they would not have laughed, and how dangerous they are. They will fully kill you.
Yeah, this is not the movie Babe.
No, they will unzip you like a jacket. Like those tusks are wild. And what we need, frankly, is a Kenneth the Hog Hunter.
Yes.
That's what we need. What if, I'm just going to go ahead and throw out an NPC already.
All right,
what
let's
if
go.
there was like a version of like maybe a reincarnation of, or just another a relative of the big bad wolf who had a vendetta against pigs? Because of course the big bad wolf failed to take out the third little pig.
Yeah.
Like famously, and depending on the version of the story, I feel like there might even be a version where the wolf perishes in the attempt.
I mean, I love layering in some lycanthropy, and the assumption is that the big, you've already used the word, the big bad wolf is the problem. And it's like, I'm out here. I mean, at this point, which is a funny way to say it, I'm out here doing the Lord's work. I mean, we don't know which deity they're tied to, but the idea that like this lycanthrope person is like, nope. Do you know the things that I have prevented by doing this? And like having this basically, again, this Feywild version of, this is my counter. Since we have talked about like the three little pigs, what is a Fey touched hog? Like what's the thing that you're going to add to it to make it feel like it's from the Feywild?
I mean, right off the bat, a talking pig. I think as soon as the pig stands up on its hind legs and starts speaking, and it's not some sort of like racial thing, it's not like a shifter or something who can just turn into a hog, or it's not a lycanthrope. I think if it's a straight up just talking pig, immediately feels more Fey. I think I'm reminded of the Ian McKellen Richard III adaptation, like the movie from the 90s, where there's a scene where one of the characters looks up at him and Richard III seems to transform into a boar, like this horrific, scary boar man. I feel like that's a bit lycanthrope-ish, but it doesn't have to be a lycanthropy thing. It can just be a shapeshifter who can shapeshift into a pig.
This is where it's at.
There's also a lot of folklore stories where a character will sometimes be a person, like be a man, and sometimes will be an animal. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like Anansi. If you look at like Anansi, sometimes he's like a spider.
Okay.
And other times he's a guy. And I don't think that the stories none of the stories I've heard describe him transforming back and forth. But the implication seems to be that if all of these stories happen to be true, that he can exist as both a spider and as a human. And so it could be like you're a folkloric figure who can at times exist as a pig and can at times exist as a human. Same with the big bad wolf, where the big bad wolf can just sometimes be a wolf. Especially if you're looking at like from Fable. The Fables, I guess, is actually the name. The Fables comic series, where Bigby Wolf is normally just a guy, but can transform into a wolf when he needs to.
Yeah, and I really like the back and forth of, I don't know, there's not this interesting like pig-based propaganda that is being put on. And so like they are the unreliable narrator, like, promoting the idea of like, no, you're literally calling them the big bad wolf, like they're the problem, like these are just normal pigs.
There's a book like that. I read I read it as a little kid. My parents read it to me as a little kid. I think it's called The True Story of the Three Little Pigs and the Big Bad Wolf, and it might be just the true story of the Three Little Pigs, written by like Big Bad Wolf.
Yeah.
And
okay.
the wolf portrays himself as just like this normal, somewhat nebbish fellow who I think had a cold and keeps accidentally sneezing the houses down. But the pigs are just mean to him. Like he's walking along. I know
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And he accidentally kills the pigs.
I think this is also like a really good segue into the idea of like, if you really want Feywild type things, like look into kind of your fairy tales, those things. Cause like you're saying, like these fairy tales they're both man and monster, or, person and animal. And because then it becomes like, okay, so what's real and what's not. And I think that's another really good thing to kind of always hold in your mind for the Feywild and the NPCs or the people that have been there, what's real and what's not, because the reliability of the narrator, if they're not directly standing in the Feywild looking at the same thing you are,
and maybe sometimes even if they are,
yeah,
I think the nice thing about the Feywild, what I like about it is that D&D has tried to, and to some extent must necessarily for how detailed the game tries to be, has placed very clear limits and very clear like definitions on most magic stuff. Like it is kind of, I guess Vancian magic is the term. I've never actually read any of the books. Was it Jack Vance? I don't think I've read any of his books, but my understanding is that D&D uses a Vancian magic system.
Yep.
And I think that that's fine. I think that that's cool, but it does kind of remove a lot of the mystery about magic and does kind of turn it into more science, even as people will be like, it's fantasy. I feel like when you go to Fae stuff, a lot of it's just like, I don't know, it just kind of happens. Like, I think, that's kind of the point of magic, at least to me, to an extent. That's like, oh yeah, maybe some of it we kind of understand and we can predict it and kind of even control it to an extent. But there's areas where we're like, man, I do not know. I flat out don't know how this functions. And I think the Feywild leans a lot more into that, which I like.
Yeah, and I think of like wild magic surges. I think of a lot of things to kind of mix that up so that it is less of a just like book learning type situation. Okay, so we need another NPC. So I have a random generator. I can't ever say the name of it on this podcast because we have a clean title. So I will allude to it. So who the F is mydndcharacter.com. And so they have provided us with the idea of an assertive dwarf warlock from a pompous wizard school who is trying to avoid a prophecy.
Interesting.
So now how do we have them be our Feywild NPC? And my first thought was, did they go and their patron is now an archfey?
Yeah, my thinking is the warlock, like if they were at a wizard school, it could be one of those things where if we're talking about the unpredictability and the indefinability of Fey magic, then the wizards, like that's like the natural anathema. Like that's anathema to wizards. You know, it's the opposite of what they're into. Like, so if wizards are trying desperately, like there's a school of magic at this place that is trying so hard to understand Fey magic, and it just isn't working. And along the way, it's like multiple schools that tend to be associated with Fey. So like illusion, enchantment, and divination, because prophecy shows up all the time in fairy tales. It could be one of those situations where there was a prophecy, like they managed to finally summon somebody, like this person has some kind of a breakthrough, and the being that they summon delivers a prophecy unto them, and they're like, oh no. Like it's such a terrible prophecy about what they might end up doing that they're like, I gotta leave the school.
Well, I feel like you staged me for like hitting on all three of the big words here. Pompous is, no, we can absolutely do that. No, it's fine. Like, what are you guys complaining about? You guys are idiots. 2, the prophecy is because of the pompous version. And then 3, well, you're a warlock now because you did a dumb thing with the magic and got stuck with summoning something that gave you a prophecy that you are now beholden to this creature.
Oh, what if it's even wilder? What if, you know how like sometimes if you go to like, if it's a risky website of some kind and you try to go there, the website will be like, oh, your computer has just been infected with a virus. Click here to download the antivirus. You know what I mean? Or warning, your computer. What if the Fae just straight up like lied to them or in some way like played this person and told them that this horrible prophecy was going to come true, but it wouldn't if they made a deal, like they sold them a soul or gave them whatever. Yeah. And in exchange for that, we'd happily keep this thing away from you. It's the same thing like where in some countries, when you go to the airport, you'll have groups of people who'll be like, hey, you know, see those people over there? They're going to try and rob you. We'll give you protection if you pay us. The implication being that if you don't give us protection, we might be the ones who rob you. But and even if you don't realize that, but it could be the same thing with this Fey patron, where the patron basically played the wizard, the former wizard, now warlock, and is tricking them into this deal so that they can get something from the warlock. maybe the warlock had to give them like their firstborn or some kind of special item. They have to procure an item for them that the Fae couldn't get because of like, there's a rule that's like no Fae can touch it or no Fae can steal it, but this person can steal it on behalf of the Fae. Like there's different things like that where the Fae is just manipulating them by telling them that there's a prophecy that they must fulfill. And like, depending on the wording of the prophecy, they're like, you know, the Fae isn't technically lying, but is absolutely deceiving them. And the person, like the person is just being tricked into this. I would really enjoy that as well.
Oh, yeah, I love that, you know, folded in. The whole reason they are even a warlock is in theory to avoid the prophecy that they are 100% fulfilling, by the way. 100,000%. They're absolutely fulfilling it unbeknownst to them, which is a great, I mean, because at this point now it could be, that's one of the nice things about an idea like this really is this can be a session. This can be a campaign. I always really like us giving those kind of ideas because then it really feels like, here, listener, whatever this needs to be for you, it could absolutely be for you because this could unlock going to the Feywild, you know, even confronting this Archfey, or it could literally be you get the item and the whole thing kind of blows up and it's done, and you don't worry about it next session. You get your loot or your experience and move on.
I completely agree that I love the idea of the person tricking them into fulfilling the prophecy just so that they can, like, I think that would be awesome if they're trying to trick them into like you described. They're so the campaign, that could almost be more of a campaign thing where, you know, the big bad at the end is the Fae, or in some, like, or maybe like a short story arc or something. But even so, I feel like having a relationship with the Fae where the Fae most of the time will kind of they'll give you powers and stuff, but they also try and get you to do stuff for them, or constantly, I like the idea of a Fae who's constantly like trying to get you into like crypto and stuff, like trying to scam you out of stuff.
Yep.
The more scammy and like almost not Fae we can make this Fae, but while still clearly being a Fae, I really enjoy that spin where the Fae doesn't act like woo 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 woo, but is there like, man, I'm telling you, now's the time to get in. This particular coin, like it's some kind of Fae coin that they want you to buy into. And they've got different scams every time. They're they got you in because they're part of an MLM, like a Fae MLM. Because I think,
I was thinking, I was like, look, we're building this temple together.
Exactly.
It looks like a pyramid. No. We call it a ziggurat. No, that's
exactly. A Fae Ziggurat. I love that. And yeah, and the more you can have them like trying to pitch them on stuff. I love the idea that they're like a hustle bro, like hustle and grind. Yep. But they're always like encouraging they're always encouraging the warlock, like, bro, you gotta get out there. You gotta get up 6 a.m., sleep, you know, bro.
Well, that's the thing. You're like, I was glad I was born Fae because I don't even need to sleep.
Yeah,
Not
I don't
that
even
I would
sleep,
if I had to.
I don't even sleep. I don't eat. You definitely don't want to eat when you're here. Like, I don't eat, I don't sleep, and the time I save, bro, you know how many patrons I got? Or how many warlocks I got? Like 2.
So, you and one other guy, but we got a plan.
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect. I say we've done it. We've definitely given some NPC ideas. But if you want to leave us a rating or review, you can head over to Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. And of course, if you want to email us, you can always do that at dmnastics@gmail.com. Of course, if you head over to Twitter, you can follow us at DMS_block. I am at JoteManiac and
I am at Jeremy Cobb1. That's Cobb with 2 B's and the number 1.
Of course. And for everything else on this network, you can always go to blockpartypodcastnetwork.com.
A huge thank you to the bards over on Bombarded for our intro and outro music. You can find out more about Bombarded at bombardedcast.com.
Let's head to the post-workout cool down and stretch with the light bulb.
Light bulb.
Today for the light bulb, we actually have an affiliate link. We've been working behind the scenes on things like that. But what I said to our affiliate, I said, you know what? One of the ways that I don't feel comfortable saying how good something is if I don't have it in my hands. It is not really a goal for me to just get things, but like I just feel more comfortable saying these things are good because I saw them. And
it's a fun byproduct of it.
It's like, it feels weird because honestly it does, because I'm like, I'm not like fishing for something, but I also feel very weird to say, hey, this is great, but having never held it in my hand.
Exactly. Your commitment to integrity also means you get free stuff sometimes.
It is a weird thing and very true. But I was not fully prepared for what I received, because it is a company called Adventure Dice. They're based out of Canada. I will prove that with my next sentence, because the dice set that they sent me was the Moose on the Loose dice set. And every single die has a tiny moose inside.
Yeah, I'm looking on their website here. It says, in loving memory of Moose the Adventure Dog. So they got like little Moose the dogs in here, it looks like, on the website. Oh, Moose looks like he was adorable. These dice are very cute.
Oh, they are amazing. Some of the other products they have are some of the most cursed things I'll ever look at, I think, because they have crooked dice, and I don't like them. I don't like looking at them, but they are super fun because they're also still weighted correctly.
And on the topic of the topic of the Feywild, they have an Into the Woods dice set. Beautiful dice here. These beautiful emerald colored, like these beautiful green and dark green. It's like these swirls of different shades of green. I love it. These are awesome.
Yep. And then we have some Just Ducky dice. There's also ones with ducks inside them. So yeah, like I said, it's a great company with some great people. Derek and I have both talked with them and connected with them. It's a great couple that's running it. And yeah, it's a really good product. Like I said, I have them in my hand. What I was actually a really big fan of was the minimum, like, this is total aside, very random of me to say, but like the minimalist version of their packaging. So it's kind of almost like a smaller wax paper bag that I could just recycle or do something with. Because I always hate when I get something where it's like the plastic and the plastic and the plastic, where it's like, I don't know why any of this was necessary. Nonetheless, the second or third layer, when I have to go get shears out of like my toolbox to get into something, I'm usually like kind of put out by the process. But yeah, it was literally like kind of little small wax paper bags that it came in, and then we were off to rolling dice. So yeah, go to adventuredice.ca. There will be an affiliate link, and that way there's a small kickback to us if you see fit and you enjoy their product. And I don't know, people used to say, and let them know that we sent you. I don't even know how you do that these days. Just find
send them a letter.
Find an email address, physical address, or phone number, and you let them know.
If they have a P.O. box, send them a handwritten letter.
That would be amazing. Please do this. But with that, we'll turn out the lights, head out of the gym. But before we go, I want to implore you, the listener, to join the forums, the Discord, Twitter, and anywhere else you can find us and take part in these challenges, exercises, and amazing conversations being had.
To do that, head over to bit.ly/DM banter and try some DM-Nastics so your players don't ask, do you even lift?